Indian stock market, 4 stocks and the Nifty for January 13th, 2021. This is Arvi Ramachandran. So as the title of this slide indicates, we are going to look at 4 stocks along with the Nifty 50, and I think you're going to find this very interesting. Prior to that, just want to walk through our askSlim premium memberships here. At askSlim, we have a very unique technical methodology that has been honed and crafted over the past 5 decades by our founder, Steve Miller. The methodology is really bull-bear agnostic here. We don't take any biased opinions on the market. We let the market and money flows speak for themselves. We specialize in cycles and momentum studies across multiple time frames, and our premium membership levels do support traders of all styles and experiences, from intraday scalpers to swing traders to position traders and investors. Our team of analysts provide coverage of the major stock indexes and ETFs, along with futures markets, including the energies, precious metals, currencies, along with the bonds and Bitcoin. And we also look at over 300 of the most active stocks that are suitable for option trading. If you're interested in learning more about askSlim, please head over to askSlim.com. We do have some great 3-month trials going as well, so if you're interested, please write to Matt, that's M-A-T-T, at askSlim.com. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Okay, so this is our weekly and daily grid here, and this grid has been built on TradingView, which is a fantastic platform for traders and investors. So on the weekly time frame, first I just want to walk through what we have on this chart. So we have our cycle brackets here at the bottom of the chart, and cycles are the way that we visualize the money flow patterns. And we also have our weekly momentum indicator here, which is this green and red line. When the line is red, that indicates negative momentum, and when the line is green, that indicates positive momentum. On the daily chart, which is on the right-hand side here, we have the slim ribbon, which is what we use to track the daily momentum, and that is a combination of the 8, 13, and 21 EMAs. We have our daily cycles here to track the shorter term money flow patterns. And lastly, we have the slim ribbon PO at the bottom, which is our proprietary momentum signaling tool here. And we use this to really get signals for continuations in upside momentum. And we'll talk further about that as we move forward. So let's first look at the weekly cycle chart here for the Nifty 50. So what we are really looking at here is a very bullish pattern here. So we look for cycle lows to form around the troughs of cycles, right? And once those cycle lows form, we would enter what we would call rising phases. And in rising phases, this is where you look for money flows to come in and for rallies on the upside. And you can see the beautiful rally that the Nifty 50 had here back in the middle part of 2020. And then in the later stages of cycles, this is where there is risk for money flows to come out. Now note that the Nifty 50 rallied for almost this whole cycle. That is what we would call a swamp cycle. And when that happens, it leaves a very short window of time for a pullback prior to likely entering into a new rising phase and getting a sharp move on the upside. And that is just what happened here. So right now we are still in this rising phase on the weekly time frame. On the upside, we have a 100% fib here at 15,073. So that's really the first upside reference that we have here. What we're looking for is for a rally up to that zone and then for a pullback into this next corrective period, which is due around the middle part of March, and then for another push back up. So this is overall a very positive pattern here on the weekly time frame. If we look at the daily chart, what we're really looking for on the shorter term, if I get my crosshair here, is for a little bit more on the upside than for a pullback into this next short-term timing, which is due around the early part of February, and then another push back up. So that's really what it's looking like on the short term. There are short-term supports from around 14,075 to right around 13,744. So those are the downside references. And what I also want to highlight here is this slim ribbon PO. So what you look for here is when the slim ribbon is firmly pointed up, you look for this slim ribbon PO to fire off these bullish momentum continuation signals, such as what we had back in late 2020. And you can see when you get those signals, what you're looking for is really for follow through in the direction of that upside momentum. And in each of these cases, you can see the beautiful moves that we had here on the upside. We also got a signal here back right near the end of the year, and you can see the move that we had here on the upside. So that's really what we use the slim ribbon PO for, is really to give those momentum continuation signals. So let's go ahead and look at the first stock. For that, we will look at Tata Consultancy. And what you'll see here is really a very bullish picture here on the weekly, where we have back-to-back swamp cycles where we used up this whole cycle rallying. It left a short window of time for a pullback, and then we got a blast off on the upside, and that happened really throughout 2020 here. And right now we are in a rising phase on the upside here with very positive weekly momentum, as you can see by this line being firmly pointed up. And overall, this tells us that the odds favor further upside. We would look for a test of this 100% fib here at 33.60 prior to any risk for a meaningful pullback down into this next corrective period here. The next low is due right around the middle part of April, and after that time period we would look for one more rising phase and a rally back on the upside here in Tata Consultancy. On the daily chart, what you'll see here is really just a bit of risk for a minor pullback, likely down into these minor supports, which come in from right around 30.85 to around 29.94. And after that time period, we will look for one more short-term rising phase here on the upside and a rally back up. So that's the overall picture here in TCS. Let's go ahead and look at the next one. For that, we will look at Infosys, which is symbol INFY. So this is Infosys, and what you'll see here is a very bullish picture. We are in this rising phase here on the weekly time frame with very positive upside momentum here. And what we're looking for is for a bit of chop to really form here, and then to get a bit of a pullback into our next intermediate term low timing, which if I highlight is due right around the middle part of February. And then after that time period, we would likely enter into a new rising phase and then get another push back up. So that's the overall picture here on the weekly. If we look at the daily, it is basically telling us the same thing. We're looking for this stock to form a high relatively shortly here, and then to get a pullback into the next short-term timing, which is due right around the middle part of February as well. So let's go ahead and look at the next one. For that, we will look at Tata Steel. So Tata Steel is a very interesting pattern. I just want to look back here so we can walk through this. So what you'll see here, if I adjust the axis a bit, is a really clear downtrending channel here in Tata Steel with these bearish cycles after bearish cycles, which is why we've added in these arrows. And a bearish cycle forms when you have a cycle low that's lower than the prior cycle low and a cycle high that's lower than the prior cycle high. And in each of these cases, you can see that we did trade below that key weekly cycle low. So if we look forward now, you can see that we then had a basing cycle forming with a cycle low that's higher than the prior cycle low, and then had a move through that prior cycle high. And that actually confirms the base and says we're in a rising phase here on the weekly time frame. So at this point, what we're looking for is really a test of this major swing high here at 747.15. The weekly momentum is firmly pointed up, so we are still in this rising phase here on the weekly time frame. What we're looking for is a test of this high, and then for a pullback into this next weekly cycle low, which is due around the middle to end of April, followed by one more pushback up. If we look at the daily cycle, what you'll see here is a really bullish overall pattern here. You'll note the really nice signals here from the slim ribbon PO, which led to beautiful follow-throughs on the upside in Tata Steel. And what we're looking for is just for a high to form and then for a pullback into the next short-term low timing, which is due around the middle part of February, followed by one more push back to the upside. So that's the overall picture here in Tata Steel. And lastly, let's go ahead and look at ICICIBank. So this is ICICI, and what I just want to highlight is the beautiful cycle structures that we're seeing here with this positive cycle that bounced right off of the intermediate term support zone, followed by the push up on the upside in this rising phase, and that happened once more here back in the middle part of 2019, and that led to a really nice follow through higher. So let's go ahead and look forward. So right now, oops, let me just adjust that. So right now, what's going on is that we are in this rising phase here on the weekly time frame. We're looking for a test of this 161.8 fib, which comes in at around 582 prior to this rising phase being over with. Then we would look for a pullback into these rising intermediate term supports, followed by another push up. Our next low is due right around that middle to end of April timeframe. And let's go ahead and look at the daily. You'll see that we're basically just looking for a little bit of a pullback in this short-term corrective period here, followed by another push up. Now, note that TradingView does have earnings for ICICI on 1:30, so just keep that on your radar as well. I hope you found this video helpful. Please feel free to leave any comments in the section below here. And if you are interested in any of our quarterly trials, please write to matt@askSlim.com. Thanks again and have a great rest of your day.